Questions. One, I've asked this before, is there any chance we could ever see the president come out here and take some questions from us in this briefing room? And secondly, has anyone in this administration ever asked the president? Last week you had on your agenda, you had an agenda where you had lower jobs coming out, lower unemployment coming out, and you also had the Second Chance Act, I think it was. And instead of those, we had to respond to presidential tweets. Has anybody ever in this administration asked him to back away from Twitter just for a day?
On the first question, certainly you guys would be the first to know if the president comes out here, but thankfully he does address the press in a number of ways and in a number of venues, and we'll see if it happens here, and we'll certainly let you know. In terms of Twitter, the president uses Twitter to communicate directly to the American people. Frankly, you have the ability to choose what you want to write about, and you guys choose to write about things that the American people don't care about day in and day out, and that's a decision that you make, and frankly I think it's the wrong one. Jordan, go ahead.
We don't have the opportunity to ask him a question about that though, Sarah. Can we at least get an opportunity to ask him a question
Jordan,
about what he tweets?
Thanks, Sarah. I want to ask you about the lawyer's letter to the special counsel. You said last August that the president did not dictate the statement about the Trump Tower meeting during the campaign, but the lawyers wrote to the special counsel that the president did dictate that statement. What's the reason for that discrepancy?
Like you said, this is from a letter from the outside counsel, and I directed them to answer that question. Deborah. Once again, you're referencing a letter that came directly from outside counsel, and I would refer you to them to answer that question. Deborah.
After Kim Kardashian's visit, thanks, Sarah, is President Trump considering a commutation for Alice Johnson, who already has served 21 years of a life without parole sentence?
The president's considering a number of different pardons and commutations, and when we have an announcement on that, we'll certainly let you guys know. John?
Thanks a lot, Sarah. Since Robert Mueller was named the special counsel over a year ago, the president's team, his legal team, the Justice Department has never challenged the constitutionality of the special counsel. And yet the president today is doing just that. Why hasn't either the Justice Department or the president's legal team challenged the constitutionality? They have the right to do so in federal court, and yet they haven't done so.
Again, scholars have raised a number of questions about the legality.
But specifically, those two entities have not done it. The president's own lawyers have not done it, Sarah, and they can do so.
You would have to ask them. I'm not here to speak on behalf of the outside counsel.
What about the Justice Department? Can you speak on behalf of the Justice
I would
Department?
refer you to the Justice Department. They have a pretty large comms team. They'd be happy to answer those questions. Steve?
Yes, Sarah, I'm wondering if the White House stands by the comments that were made by the U.S. ambassador to Germany, who said that he was backing anti-establishment conservatives to take power in Europe. Seems like a very unusual thing for a U.S. diplomat to say towards friendly countries.
I don't have any updates on that front at this point. Blake?
Sarah, let me ask you, turn your attention back to trade for the farmers out there who care less about the politics, who have to run a business every day. There was a farmer in Iowa who told one of our crews out there this morning, he said, it's hard to know which way to jump right now. As in, they don't know what decisions they should make for their businesses because of what is playing out here in Washington, here in China, NAFTA negotiations as well. What would you tell those folks out there who are trying to run these businesses, who are trying to make a decision on which way to jump right now?
Certainly, the president is trying to do everything he can to protect American farmers, American businesses, and he is negotiating with a number of countries, but also the president wants to make sure that we're ending unfair trade practices. The president has said that he wants to help protect farmers, and we're looking at a number of different ways to do that, and we're going to continue that throughout this process. Peter? Sorry, Blake, I'm going to keep going. Peter?
Sorry, Sarah, I just want to come back. In August, you said he certainly didn't dictate the statement. I wonder if you could tell us the basis of your comment when you made that in August, and do you think that still stands? Is that still an operative statement, or do you retract that?
Once again, this is a reference back to a letter from the outside counsel. I understand, but it's also pertaining to a letter from the president's outside counsel, and therefore I can't answer, and I would direct you to them.
What was your basis for saying it in August, though?
Once again, I'm not going to get into a back and forth, and I would encourage you to reach out to the outside counsel.
Sir, Rudy Giuliani, the president's outside lawyer, said to the Huffington Post, in no case can he be subpoenaed or indicted. I don't know how you can indict while he's in office, no matter what it is. If he shot James Comey, he'd be impeached the next day. Impeach him, and then you can do whatever you want to him. Is that appropriate language coming from the president's outside lawyer to be talking about the president shooting Jim Comey in that fashion?
You would have to ask Rudy Giuliani about his specific comments, but thankfully the president hasn't done anything wrong, and so we feel very comfortable in that. Josh?
Sarah,
Go ahead, Josh.
if I could ask a follow-up
Sorry, I'm
question.
gonna keep going.
If I could ask a
Josh,
follow-up
go
question,
ahead.
who are these?
Not today, Jim. Go
Well,
ahead,
others
Josh.
have had follow-up questions.
They haven't actually. Go ahead, Josh.
They have had follow-up questions. If I could ask who these legal scholars are that you are
I'm going to
citing,
direct
that
the
would be
question
great.
to Josh. Go ahead.
If you're saying the one thing from the podium that it wasn't dictated by the president, and his lawyers are saying something entirely different, contradicting you, how are we supposed to know what to believe? How can we believe what you're saying from the podium if his lawyers are saying it's entirely inaccurate?
Once again, I can't comment on a letter from the president's outside counsel. I direct you to them to answer it. John?
But Sarah, the words are literally, you said he did not dictate. The lawyer said he did. What is it?
I'm
Has
not
he
going to
warned-
respond to a letter from the president's outside counsel. We've purposely walled off, and I would refer you to them for comment. John?
Thank you, Sarah. The question about pardons. 11 days ago, the president issued the posthumous pardon for boxing great Jack Johnson. The leading proponents of this for more than a decade have been Congressman Pete King in the House and Senator John McCain in the Senate, both big boxing fans. Senator McCain tweeted his support for the pardon. Will the president use this opportunity to call Senator McCain and try and patch things up with him at this moment in his life?
I'm not aware of a scheduled call, so I wouldn't want to get ahead of that. Sorry, Philip?
Sarah, thank you. I just want to check something with you. What in the tariffs that were imposed against Canada reinforced the U.S. national security?
I'm sorry, what was the last part of the question?
You know, the tariffs that were imposed against Canada, aluminum and steel, what in that reinforced the U.S. national security? In what form the U.S. feels more secure now that Canada has been targeted by tariffs?
The president feels strongly that the steel and aluminum industries are critical to our national security and our ability to protect ourselves. And that would be that reference point in the 232. Hallie?
Sarah, thanks. The special counsel didn't seem so unconstitutional when the president was calling on one to investigate his political opponent during the campaign. So is it only unconstitutional if the president doesn't like it?
Once again, the president's made his views on this point clear. I don't have anything else to add. Jennifer?
About the constitutionality of it,
Question
though,
for you,
Sarah.
Sarah. Thank you. The president on Friday said that he's open to bilateral deals with Mexico and Canada. Is he still leaning towards bilateral deals as he heads up to Canada at the end of this week, or is he still thinking, or is he thinking that he'd like to save NAFTA and just renegotiate?
As the president said, he's open to it, but we're in ongoing negotiations. Right here.
Thanks, Sarah. Last week, Missouri Governor Creighton stepped down. Did President Trump or anyone at the White House ever reach out to encourage him to step down?
I'm not aware of any conversations directly with the president or with anyone here at the White House.
So why not, considering he's the leader of the party?
Certainly, we were aware of the issue and felt that this was a decision to be made by the people of Missouri and a local issue. April?
Sarah just said the president hasn't done anything wrong and wouldn't need a pardon, but he said in his tweet that he has the absolute right to pardon himself. Does he assume that special counsel will find him guilty of something?
No, because he hasn't done anything wrong.
But he said in his tweet that he could pardon himself, so it seems to be an assumption that that Mueller will find him wrong for something, and if so, what would it be?
It seems like it would be a completely wrong assumption. The president hasn't done anything wrong. I'm not sure how else I can answer that question.
Two questions on the Justice Department and pardons. For example, the Office of Legal Counsel has said that the president can't actually pardon himself. Has the president requested a new opinion that may inform his tweet today? And also, there are some concerns about whether the president is still fielding those traditional pardon recommendations from the Justice Department. Some people are concerned that instead of relying on the Justice Department, he's relying on sort of rich and famous people to recommend pardons.
The president looks at each case individually to see if something wrong has been done or whether mercy should be given. That's what he's done, and that's what he'll continue to do in the future. He has the authority to make that decision and has.
On OLC, has he asked for a new OLC opinion? I'm sorry, has he asked for a new OLC opinion on the pardon power?
I'm not aware of a recommend or an ask or a recommendation, but certainly would reiterate the fact that the president hasn't done anything wrong.
Thank you.
What does the president think is his top foreign policy achievement in the first 500 days?
I think that there have been a number of major foreign policy achievements. Certainly, I think the strengthening of relationships with a number of foreign leaders. I think that the conversation that we're looking forward to having here in the next couple of weeks is certainly a step in the right direction. Moving the embassy in Israel would certainly be on that list, being tough on Russia, being tough on trade, and making sure that countries that have engaged in unfair trade practices are held accountable. Those are just a few, but certainly I think the list is quite lengthy, and we'd be happy to provide some more details. Sarah,
can you give us a little bit more background on the pardon process? Is there a process in place at this White House to review pardons? And how did the pardon ideas of Rod Blagojevich and Martha Stewart come up? Is it simply a matter of who can gain the president's ear in order to get a pardon process? Or is there an attorney here in the White House through which these requests are funneled through, which eventually make their way up to the president?
Certainly there are a number of attorneys here at the White House, and they review these matters, but ultimately the president looks at each of these cases individually and makes that decision as he has the right to do so. Take one last question. Eamon?
Thanks, Sarah. I wanted to ask you about the president's call today with Theresa May, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, who said that the president's tariffs on the EU were, quote, unjustified and deeply disappointing, according to the British readout of their phone call today. That's what she said to the president. How did the president respond to that?
The president feels very confident in his decision and will continue to make sure that the unfair trade practices that have gone on for decades do not continue, and that he's protecting the interest of American workers and American businesses. Thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.